Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk with Anthea Isaac. And today, with regard to Mental Health Day, I decided to invite one of my favorite seniors from college. She is Neenu Jawahar. We had a very special relationship, more than just senior and junior. We were together in clubs, ISC club, and we had a lot of fun time together in college. And now I'm so proud to invite her for this interview and let you know that she's one of the aspiring clinical psychologists. And today she will be talking about mental health, the awareness, and a lot more things that you would definitely enjoy hearing. So, welcome, Neenu Akka.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, Akka. How are you?
I'm great.
So, first of all, I would like to thank you for accepting my invite. It really means so much to me.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's really fun to see you after so many years and to be doing this for you.
Thank
and
you.
on this special day as well.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much, Akka. So, as I mentioned earlier, I mentioned that you are an aspiring clinical psychologist and you also do various awareness programs, talk, and you have your own blog. So, what are the things that you actually do? Can you give us a short intro about yourself?
Okay, so I have completed my master's in applied psychology. So technically, I can work as a psychologist now, but I want to go to the next step. I want to be working in hospitals under a psychiatrist. So this is why I call myself an aspiring clinical psychologist. To be eligible, to work as a clinical psychologist, we need to finish a 2-year course, to get our license. So I'm actually preparing for that exam. And the other work is that I write under the name Caption Speak on Instagram, and also I have a blog under the same name. So I discuss a lot about mental health and also my views and perspectives of various things that happen in the society. Not very rebellious stuff, but yes, I'm kind of a feminist, so yes, I write that as well. Yeah, that's about me.
Okay, so as you know that the very first reason I invited you is today we are supposed to like talk about and spread awareness on mental health. And I was reading some articles where they mentioned that Mental Health Day is being recognized for almost 30 years now. So I just
Yes.
wanted to ask, what is the importance of mental health? Why it is very important? Can you explain that?
Yes. So it's a very good question. See, we talk about mental health a lot today, but we need to understand why we do that, right? So imagine, let me ask you a question. Why is physical health important?
For us
Why
to
do you think
work,
it's
for us to
exactly?
work.
So, for our normal functioning, be it at work or be it with personal relationships, we need a proper physical health, right? So when there's a disturbance in our body, we don't feel good, we feel tired, we feel sick, we can't do our work. Similarly, mental health also it has a great impact on the various aspects of our life when it comes to the functioning of our own personal relationships. Let's say mental health is important because a small when you are under stress, you cannot think properly. The way you behave changes. So I think that just answers that simple thing answers the whole question, right? Because it affects the function just simply because it doesn't necessarily be that you need to have a big disorder as such, a big illness as such, but even slight stress, like there might have been times when we have had anger outbursts, right? We might be like stressed about something, a person comes and talks to us and we just shout at them like leave me alone. So that is also a kind of a mental breakdown. So it affects our relationships, our work, and any aspect of our life. It even affects our physical health as well. I think that's why mental health is very important.
Yeah.
And I would also like to mention that when I say it affects physical health, see, when you're physically ill, naturally you will be mentally disturbed. Similarly, when you are mentally disturbed, it will affect your physical health as well because there will be changes in appetite. And when you don't eat properly, you will get ulcers. So even mental disturbances will lead to physical illness. So I think, which is why we need to understand the interdependence that physical health and mental health has.
Wow, thank you so much for explaining that. So, as you mentioned about physical health, like Like if we get fever, we get to find that with our body pressure, and if my body aches, I get find that with the aches I have in my body. So that's how we find our physical illness, like whatever that disease it might be. So in regard to mental health, you mentioned the anger or the sorrow, which are actually common emotions. We humans are tend to feel that. But when is that moment where you find, when you identify that you are definitely mentally disturbed or mentally ill? So how can an individual find uh, that she's not or he's not doing well mentally?
Okay, so see, here, when we say mentally unwell, there's a lot of levels to it, right? So, like mental health is like a continuum. On one side, on one extreme, you have a healthy mind, sound mind, and then on the other extreme, you have disorders like let it be schizophrenia, bipolar, and any disorders, depression, major depression, can be anything. And then there's something in the middle, right? So we as human beings, we always move across this continuum. We don't always stay there, right? We go to and fro, which is what we call, we have stress and all that. So throughout this, there will be, certain symptoms. Like obviously, when it comes to disorders, there will be obvious symptoms, right? Everything will be out of proportion. But let's just say, let us consider the other parts of the continuum. Normally, you will have disturbances with your appetite for sure. You either overeat or you undereat, and then there'll be a general tiredness, even mentally and physically. You will lose interest in what you want to do. Like you might have to push yourself to do something. Okay, it is not necessarily does not mean that it's only for a particular disorder or such, but generally when you have stress, you will feel, you will not feel to it, or you will either overeat. We call it emotional eating and all that, right? So that will be there. Relationships will be affected. You will have more common fights with your friends and family members. Yeah, I think a lot loss of interest would be there. These are some of the like very basic changes that will happen when you have a mental disturbance. But you can say a lot of things like this, and it depends on what kind of situation you're undergoing.
Oh, so yeah, thank you so much for letting us know about it. And as I mentioned earlier, you write blogs, you talk in various stages, and you do videos on mental health.
Mhm.
So there is quite a notion where people have started doing that in the mental health area, just like other sports, entertainment, and other stuff. Mental health has become a topic where people have started to evolve and talk about it. So, what actually inspired you to, like pursue a career in clinical psychologist and talk about this to the outer world? Like being aware, getting studying about it, and getting, like being aware is different, but voicing out, letting people be, helped by what you have learned. So, how did that inspiration come out of you?
So the fact that I took psychology as a subject was only an accident. Like my mom had a like keen interest in knowing about psychology. She did not officially learn it, but she always had an interest. So looking at her, I thought, why not I give it a try? But once I started studying, I naturally fell in love with the subject, and which is why I pursued a master's in the same. But what inspired me to voice out to start a blog is that I felt like there's a lot of ideas that goes to my mind. Like my inspiration is like my surroundings. I see a lot of my friends, and just Instagram itself gives me a lot of content, I would say, because there's this wrong perception that people give about various things, and people easily get affected by it, especially adolescents. And while I go out just to have fun, when I see people there, I get inspiration. I can see adolescents trying so hard to act like adults. So there are every minute thing in my surroundings just inspired me. I thought maybe by like see when I was studying psychology, I knew I became a better person. There were lots of areas, and I had lots of weaknesses which I was blind to. But after starting to study, I felt like, "Wait, this is the area where I should improve." So I started, working on that. So I thought maybe why not? I cannot touch everyone personally, right? I cannot go and tell everyone personally, you can do this, do that. So I thought maybe if I write about it, people can take whatever is applicable to them, and then they can change it, in their own pace. So I think that's my inspiration, my own surroundings, nothing else.
So, like, do you think that the awareness have started growing wilder? Like there are a lot of people talking about mental health, And
Mm.
do you think that it is actually helping the individuals? Like the talk is there,
Mm.
everybody talks about it, everybody posts about mental health, everybody knows that this day in particular is like spoken about mental health. But does that really help individuals in person?
See, there was a time where mental health, the word mental health itself had so much stigma attached to it, right? Even now, the stigma has not completely changed. Even when it comes to disorders, like, especially schizophrenia, bipolar, people are still scared to approach people like that. But, when I was in my internship in a hospital, I was dealing with these people and I understood that these people are just like us. It's just that there's a chemical imbalance in their brain and it's
Mm.
causing them to behave in certain ways. But if they articulate even better than us actually. So they are normal people. But the fact that the stigma is slowly decreasing is a wonderful thing. People are becoming aware of all that. But what bothers me is that the misinformation that is there. Like today we are loaded with so much of information, be it in any field, not just in mental health. We have an overload of information. So the problem comes when we read so much about it and then we start to become paranoid. See,
Mm.
as a psychologist, like whatever I'm going to say now, I'm sure that every psychologist student will relate with this. When you start studying about certain things, you will become paranoid. You're like, no, oh my god, I have this. Even though you don't have that, the moment you read certain symptoms, it is there. Especially when you learn about certain conditions, you will think that it's there. So, as a student who is under the guidance of experienced professors, we had experienced that paranoia,
Mm.
right? So imagine common people who are just getting information so much from the internet. They are going to become paranoid, right? So
Mm.
my advice would be that look, see, it is good that people talk about it, but we don't have control over the information that we are being, that's misleading us. We cannot differentiate which is right, which is wrong. So I think it is good that people talk, and yes, it is helping some people. Certain people are getting, actually seeking help because of all this information that is available. But my advice would be that it's always important to have a personal therapist or some professional, that you need just to verify whether whatever you have read, whatever you are thinking within you is right or wrong. Is it applicable to you or not? Because every information is not applicable to everyone. We are all different. You are different. I am different. My personality makeup is different. So everything in the net is not going to be applicable to, it's not universal, I would say. Right. So I
Mm.
think it's important that we have someone in our personal lives who knows about these things so that they can guide us through this.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I have also heard that there are actually services that like gives you this psychological help that we need, but I think most of the people are not aware of it. Like we are aware of doctors who help us with our physical
Mm.
health, but not with
Yes.
the psychiatrists who help with the mental health. And some even feel as if like they feel angry at themselves for needing such help, or they
Mm.
feel that they are an odd one out person and this is kind of a disgrace for their family or themselves to go and seek for psychological help. Am I right? Like,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
I think that comes from the fact that, see, the moment we say I'm going for therapy, or just say I'm meeting with a psychologist,
Mm.
people tend to be like, oh, what problem do you have? Like, is it so serious? It does not need to be like that. Sometimes you might just have like a normal confusion within you, maybe a relationship issue, or it can be just that you don't know what career to choose, so you need some career guidance. So
Mm.
even for this, you can meet with a psychologist. It does not necessarily be a traumatic incident to always meet with a psychologist. So I think that kind of that is also what we call stigma, right? That comes from the fact that people might think that we have a very serious issue, so
Mm.
we try to deal with it ourselves, which is why it comes. So now coming to services, I would say psychologists, as I said, clinical psychologist, like he or she is someone who can conduct assessments like IQ assessments and any other assessments, diagnosing they can do. Okay, when it comes to clinical conditions, and we'll be working under a psychiatrist. So psychiatrist is a person who would have done an MD in psychiatry,
Mm.
right? So they are doctors. So they will be prescribing medicines for any clinical conditions. Mentally, if they have any clinical condition, then they would be prescribing medicines if you need it.
Mm.
And yes, I want to register this here. not everyone who visits a psychologist or psychiatrist is given medicines. Only if the case is very severe and if you cannot be controlled, if you cannot control it by yourself, then they will prescribe medicines. This is something I wanted to register here because people, they have that fear also. Oh, if I go, then they'll give me, tablets, and I would have to, take it throughout my life. It's not true. Only if it is necessary, you will be given that. So yes, so like psychiatrist is someone who gives you medicines, who can also provide therapy. Clinical psychologist is someone who works under the psychiatrist and also along with the psychiatrist to give therapy, conduct assessments, diagnosis, stuff like that. Then there's this person, counseling psychologist. Like a lot of counseling psychologists are there, and even inside, even inside that category, you have different specializations. Like some will be specialized in family therapy, some will be specialized in relationship counseling, some will be specialized just for adolescents. So, or there can be a single person who is doing all this, right? So, depending on your issue, you can actually approach people who do that kind of a therapy. But even inside therapy, you have tons of therapy. You have something called cognitive behavioral therapy that in which they help you to restructure your own thoughts, right? And then you have acceptance and commitment therapy. You have DBT. You have so many therapies. So all of this will depend on kind of problem at hand, whatever you are facing right now. They will provide you. So a psychologist or a counseling psychologist, you have educational psychologists who works in schools, right? They do counseling in schools, and even they can help in building a curriculum for the school. There are psychologists who help there as well. So a child psychologist who completely focuses on the development of the child, deals with children's issues. So there are different under psychologists. You have so many specializations. So depending on your issue, you can always check their qualification, which is very important. Whether they hold a master's degree is very important. Where they have graduated from, if possible, you can find out that. So yeah, credibility is very important because there are diploma courses in psychology as well, and not everyone will be qualified enough to, efficient enough to give you the proper environment. So it's very important to check the credibility. The services are abundant. It's just that we need to use it wisely, which is why I say you need to always have this one person who can guide you through all these things. And sometimes, again, one more warning I would like to give to people is that when you first time you go for therapy, it is not necessary that that person is your therapist. You might have to go for, like how we say, doctor shopping, right? Just like that, you might have to go to lots of people before you find your therapist, because there's a lot of things that has to match between you and your therapist itself, because you have to feel comfortable around them. So because every therapist have their own style again. So it might take some time, but once you find them, it will be totally worth it.
Wow, like you gave me a very wide explanation, and I'm sure that the viewers will be amazed too, because as you mentioned, we just know psychologists. That's the only term I knew, and you just gave examples on even little things can be dealt by a psychologist, which is really amazing. And as you mentioned, I also wanted to mention it again for our viewers, like mental health is not just the mental illness, but it is also the chemical imbalance in your brain. So it's somewhat biological. So that are certain things that people might not be aware of. So when a person is mentally ill, it is not exactly the person's fault. It might be their biological differences. So and another point you mentioned is that not all the therapies need medicines. Like something can be dealt in person too. So I again read an article where they said that the mental health is not given importance, and these medications or the doctors who deal with the mental health, like there is no access to those people, as you mentioned, the authenticity, and we are not sure, like there should be a wavelength between the psychiatrist and the patient. I don't want to call them patient, the person who is seeking for help. So as you can see, like a developing country like ours, we don't give importance to mental health, which is an agreeable point. And there might be people who can't afford mental health. So that's what I believe. So there is no time. It's not like money, but it's not like don't have time to afford, they don't have money to afford, or they don't have that physical or mental stability to afford for that treatment. So, one of the best ways is to help each other as a human, as you mentioned again. We are social human beings.
Sorry to interrupt you, but this point that you said, actually, I don't know if it's like a wonderful coincidence. This year, the every mental health day, you have a particular theme that they have.
Yeah,
Right?
I read
So
about
last
that.
week was okay, so it's not a coincidence. Anyway, I'm glad that you brought it up. So last week was suicide prevention. This year it is about greater investment and greater access. Right. So, like worldwide, this is the theme. And as you said, our country is a developing nation for years now. But I think the stigma about mental health is only, partially going away. And the fact that, see, the reason that they kept this as a theme this year was because of the pandemic. All that everyone might have undergone something or the other during this pandemic that disturbed them, and therefore greater investment is needed. That is the rationale they gave for this particular thing. So here, I think in our country, I'm not sure if they're going to implement that as such, because even when it comes to investment, I'm not sure whether they are going to keep mental health as a priority. But what I would like to say is, in our own family budgets, right, in our own family, within our friend circle, we can make it a point that we invest in mental health. But when I say invest in mental health, it's not necessarily that you go for therapy or such. You can attend self-improvement classes. There are lots of psychologists who conduct, self-love workshops about self-love, right? They do all that. So, self-improvement, mindfulness. So, these are all things that you can just attend a workshop. You give a little bit of money to attend that workshop, and then there's lifetime of, improvement that you can have with you. So, that is also investing. That is not necessarily that you always go for therapy. That is only the investment, I would not say. You can just attend classes like these, and yeah, I think that is very important. From as an individual, that's the least you can do for yourself. You're all spending a lot on different things, right? So maybe when you see someone, again, credibility is important. So when you see a workshop, you come across a workshop that is going to help you improve yourself, or help you to restructure your thoughts, be free to attend them. Don't think it's a waste of money. So I think, I don't know about a country, but as an individual, it can start with you, right? The investment part can start with you.
So, yeah, that is so true. But there are things that, as a very commoner, we can help people. That is what I believe, because we are social animals, as we call ourselves.
Yes.
So, can you hint us on how a commoner like me can find, if I find that my friend is struggling, or my family members, how can I help? I read one of your articles where you mentioned some key points, like listening and stuff. We also spoke about it with Angel in one of our previous interviews.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
so according to you, what are the?
I was about to say the same thing actually. The biggest thing that you can do for someone is listening. Okay. See, most people who are undergoing something mentally, only a few people would be, willing to seek help. Even if it's your close friend, only a few people will actually come to you and say, "Hey, I'm undergoing something. I need to talk." Not everyone will say that. Some people would be very hesitant to even come and ask for help. So what you can do is constantly checking on them, right? Even if they push you away, not to pester them, but you can just let them know that I'm here. If you want to say anything, if you want to share anything, I'm here. That's the least you can do, and I think that's the biggest thing you can do. Because you see, people who come and actually ask for help, things are easy, because all you have to do is just lend your ears for them and just sit there, nod, listen. And when you listen, you have to actually listen. You should not be just hearing what they say. You should be listening. You should make sure that they feel understood. That's all. Even if it's not relatable to you, you can try to take their point of view. So basic empathy, I would say, just trying to take their point of view. But the very important thing is when people don't seek help, when you know that your friend is undergoing something, but is not showing it out. Maybe he or she is pretending to be happy. As a friend, definitely we will get some things from them. So it's important that just putting like a message to them. I'm here for you. If you need anything, if you want to speak about anything, I'm here. That's all. So even if not immediately, they will one day definitely come and ask you for your help, or they will at least feel better from the very one statement that you said, oh, okay, there's someone for me. I think that's the biggest thing you can do. You don't have to necessarily be very equipped and, you don't try to give answers or solutions. That's all. Just listen. And unless they ask you for a solution, don't provide solutions. Because that can be annoying to a lot of people. When you're undergoing something and if you're going to be like, this is not a huge thing, just do this, do that, people will get more annoyed. So I think don't provide solutions.
So I really love the term you used. Like, I also believe that empathy, like when a person actually has empathy, they don't, like feel like hurting others because we can understand what they are going through. And that empathy part can actually play a very great role when we deal with mental illness of adolescents because of social media, online bullying, suicidal thoughts. So these are some greatest topics in mental health for these days. So
Yes.
that empathy term actually can make this world a very better place. So that's what I believe. So what are your thoughts on this online bullying, the social media anxiety they call? I'm not sure how technically this actually, like influences people mentally. So can you? I'm sure that the viewers are also not aware of that. So can you let us know how this social media anxiety or whatever they call and how that actually helps us mentally,
See,
and like affects us mentally, and how can we use that to help others?
yes. Okay. So there's two things. Okay. So earlier we used to, commonly have what's called peer pressure. Even now, there's not peer pressure. In person, there's a lot of peer pressure. Now it has just taken a form, taken the form of social media. Earlier, what we called peer pressure was, there'll be physically there'll be two friends, a group, a gang will be present, and you will have to conform to be accepted, right? Now, in the case of social media, the same happens, but with a lot of people, with 500, members. You won't even know a lot of people personally. It's like a friend of friend of friend, but still you will have the need to, influence them or a need to please them, and it comes from, it comes from a basic need to be accepted, or to for people to think that you have a good life, right? And we cannot blame anyone for feeling that way, because we have always had that need. We always have had that. Social media has just aggravated it. That's all. So my advice would be that you, as a person, when you comment on someone's post, okay, if you have a difference of opinion, you can just highlight what you don't like about the post in a kind way. You don't have to be rude always. Especially when it comes to celebrities, they don't have any control over who's going to comment. There will be people who, as influencers, they know that they have to undergo all this. But what I feel is it is not necessary. Why should a person, just because they are an influencer, or just because they're in social media, who said that you are an influencer, so you will also get hate comments. You have to live with it. I have seen people commenting like that, but I don't know. I don't understand that. Why should a person get a hate comment, even if it's a normal person or an influencer or a celebrity? No, everyone has difference of opinions. Okay, see, I might not agree with you on a lot of things, but there's a way to say. So if you think you are only going to be rude, then just ignore. Ignoring something is not going to take a lot of effort, right? You just have to. You read it, you don't like it, you just ignore it. If you cannot be kind, don't be rude. Just keep quiet. That's the least as a person you can do for others. And if you are the one who is getting all these negativity, then I would say take a break. You don't have to please anyone, because I think the most important thing is to be true to yourself. Because only when you be true to yourself, you will be happy. I'm saying this because, see, maybe you have a particular goal. I need these many followers in Instagram, and you achieve it. But once you achieve it, you will still not be happy. You will want more. You will want more, and that will stress you even more. Instead, if you're just authentic, if you're just being yourself, you're being true to yourself and living a life which you think is important for you, that's more than enough. That's the it's very simple to not be affected by all these negativity in social media, but we choose to be affected by that. I think it's just a conscious choice we have to make. Okay, I'm in this. This is just a medium, right? Social media. It's just a medium to be connected to people. It's not. It is not going to define who I am. that you register in your mind, I think there'll be no problem.
And I really liked where you mentioned that even actors and influencers are human beings and they don't have to live with hate comments. And this is
Yeah.
something that I always tell people too. Like, if either they are entertainers or celebrities, they are humans too, so they don't deserve hate comments. So, like, I just wanted to add a point like, if you have something negative to say, just don't tell that, and if you have something good positive to tell, just make sure to tell them, because even in my videos, just I'm telling my example where every one comment matters. Like, people might think that there are already lots of good comments, so I don't really have to tell her that she's doing good, or I don't have to credit him for his work because he already knows it. But that's not how it works. So if it is really a good thing and you want to appreciate it, make sure to tell that to people. And like, whenever there is hate, just don't let hate spread this world. And I personally believe there is only self love when you love others. Only when you learn to love others, you can love yourself too. So it is ultimately understanding what love is. So thank you so much for hinting all those uh, beautiful points to me, Akka. So
I'm glad.
my final question is that, as you mentioned, like, you told us how to help others and things, but as a person, what are the few practices? I'm sure that you would have tried certain practices in your life, so they might have been effective. So, can you share those personal points which can help me and my viewers to put it into practice in our daily life as well?
Okay, so if you are someone who likes to write, journaling is like a wonderful thing. It's very underestimated, I would say. A lot of people advocate that, but not everyone follows it. Even I don't follow it very regularly, But there were times when I used to very diligently follow writing my journal every night, and I did see a lot of difference because when you write whatever happened in that day, not just events, but what you did, how you reacted to certain things. I had a fight with my friend, for instance, means I will definitely think about it, and I'm actually replaying the incident in my mind. So you will understand where you went wrong, where your friends went wrong, what was the communication gap. So basically, journaling is like a space to understand what went wrong. It's a part of you're reflecting on what happened, and the next day you will not commit the same mistake. And even if you're committing the same mistake, you will see the pattern. So it paves way for self improvement. So journaling is a very effective thing. But if you don't like to write, you can actually just sit, before going to sleep, sit by yourself, think about whatever happened that day. You can just mentally do that. But writing is more effective because you will be able to see clearly, what is wrong there.
Like a
And
solid evidence to read after days too.
yes. So see, when you think and just it just goes in the air. So it's better to write, and writing doesn't necessarily mean you write very huge paragraphs and all that. Just points will do because it's just reflecting. You're just trying to improve yourself. So that's one thing that I would strongly recommend. Even it's very hard to follow though because to maintain it consistency is not a very easy task. I have experienced it myself, but if you can, it's wonderful. Then exercise. Exercise is I'm not talking about very heavy workouts or not necessarily all these heavy. What should I say? Something to get a good body shape. That's not what I'm meaning. Exercise in the sense that going out for a walk. See, every day you might have a very hectic day, but in the evening, I'm sure you will at least have 20 minutes to spare, right? So go out. If there's a park near you, it's wonderful to walk inside a park. Or if you just have, you can just walk in your terrace somewhere. There's some sort of a physical activity. It will keep your brain more active. And when I say more active, see, the more you sit idle, there will be no hormones and your so-called neurotransmitters, dopamine, and all you may have heard. It's a very common thing like people talk about that. So all these will not be secreted that easily. When you do some activity, it will be boosted. So I think exercise, scientifically, I would say exercise will definitely help you boost your mental health. And exercise is not necessarily, as I said, heavy workout. So you don't have to pay for a gym and all and all. Just a walk or going out and getting some air, basically, right? That will also help you a lot. And eating well is one thing that I would say. It's good for your physical health as well, but mentally also it will help you a lot. You should eat mindfully, eat healthy things basically. So if you're going to be just binging on all these unhealthy things, that's again going to affect your mental health as well. When you talk about biologically, to say it is going to affect you. Other than that, you can as I said, when you're journaling, there's this one thing that you can do. There will be certain thoughts that you have throughout the day, right? Now, for example, as I said, the example that I gave was fighting with a friend. So there would have thoughts that might have crossed in your mind. Why did I even become friends with her? Certain thoughts. So you can write that down and you can ask yourself, why did you think that way? What is the reason behind it? So you will understand uh, what is wrong with that relationship and how you can mend it. So listing down your thoughts is a very good practice, I would say. And these three things, if we do, you can actually be happy. I wouldn't say you're always going to be healthy, mentally healthy. As I said, it's a continuum. You will go to and fro every time. Being anxious and nervous is something that we everyone experiences before an exam, right? But for some other people, it will be a little bit out of proportion. Any incident might, make us anxious. So you can just do deep breathing. Oh, I'm glad that I brought it up now. It is also very underestimated. Like even in my blog, I think I have written that deep breathing is something that's very underestimated. People think, it's just something that people say to encourage others. It's not true. It actually works, but you have to do it right. That's all. You inhale and hold it for a few seconds, and then you exhale slowly. So inhaling and exhaling has to happen slowly. The science behind that is just that you have this something called this parasympathetic nervous system. So when you're nervous, the opposite of that sympathetic nervous system. I hope I'm not confusing a lot. Is it okay if I talk about?
Yes, yes, yes.
So when you're nervous and anxious, that sympathetic nervous system will be active. So when you do deep breathing, naturally you are calming this and you're making the parasympathetic active. So that system is concerned with relaxation and things like that, calming down. So which is why people say do deep breathing. So I think deep breathing, if people do it the right way and in the right times, it will be very effective. So that is one. It's like we say over the counter medicines and all for physical health, right? Just like that, deep breathing is something that anyone can practice anywhere, anytime. So that's one thing that I tell people to try.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for all those beautiful practices, and I'm sure that our viewers will try that too. And yes, we are wrapping the interview once again. I would like to thank you so much for joining us. It has been a beautiful conversation, an in-depth one, and I have got to learn a lot about mental health on the Mental Health Day. So thank you so much once again for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I had a really good time. I hope this, benefits at least a few people.
Yes, I'm sure it will. So, can you let the viewers know about all your social media accounts and your blog so that people can follow your work and your social media?
Okay, so I think the link to my blog, we can just put it in the description box, but it's the same name everywhere, Caption Speaks. So in Instagram, just type Caption Speaks, you will see my account. I have the same in Facebook as well, but I actually post the same content everywhere, so I think it's enough to talk about Instagram, I guess. And yeah, blog is again, it's another name, Caption Speaks, but I will provide you the link so that you can attach it in your.
Sure. So I will definitely make sure that your social media accounts and blogs are attached in the description. So as for me, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. It's Anthea Isaac, and for Facebook, it's Anthea Dorothy Isaac. I also have my own website where I do write blogs, and for this day, I have written a special blog for this day. It is just my opinion on mental health and whatever the things that I got to learn while reading few articles. So I'm sure that you will be interested to read it. Make sure to read it. And once again, thank you so much, Akka. I hope this interview really benefits everybody. Would you like to thank our viewers?
Yes, I was about to say that. I just have one small request to all the viewers. As I said, it's we all talk about mental health a lot, but I think it's even more important to talk it the right way, to not stigmatize talking about mental health, and not to ostracize people who are diagnosed with an illness. Like people have problems, but anyone with the clinical conditions are also human beings like us. So if you come across anyone, please don't use harsh words like lunatics and stuff like that, because it hurts their sentiments a lot. So and I would also like to know how you all like this video. So please do mention in the comment section if you like this video. If you want, if you you can also actually give me suggestions as to what I should write in my blog. Like I can actually write about what, because it's important, right? More than what I think, I can provide for other people what they need. So thank you viewers for taking your time and watching this video, and thank you Anthea for inviting me again.
So you gave the inment for the interview. So thank you guys once again. As she mentioned, make sure to talk the right things about mental health, and make sure to spread all the good stuff that you have in you. So next time I will make sure to come up with another amazing guest. So until then, take care, stay safe, spread love, and be loved. Bye guys.
Bye.